In Kim Zmeskal appear to the dreamers it can be done. It is a sport that is bigger than life, a sport whose most dominant figure in the world would appear himself bigger than life. Bela Karolyi is gymnastics' most recognized name and most dominant personality, a big man in a small person's venue. And when the dreaming stops, there are the few who will wake to the possibility of accomplishing something that has not been done before. The United States women's team, this could be their moment. It is a sport that takes the best of a lot of worlds. Dedication, athleticism, daring, defying the extremes, grace. This is the sport of gymnastics, and these are its championships. We welcome you to the 1991 World Gymnastics Championships here in Indianapolis, Indiana. This is only the second time in a long history of World Championships, dating all the way back to 1903, that this event has been held here on American soil. The last time was in 1979 back in Fort Worth. We could see a first, and the crowd you're listening to right now can be very much a factor in the team competition tonight. Hello, everybody. I'm Barry Tompkins, along with Bart Connor and Kathy Johnson. And Kathy, we might, in fact, see something unprecedented tonight.
The Americans are in second place behind the Soviets and ahead of a very strong Romanian team. The U.S. has never won a World Championship team medal, so this might be history in the making. Kim Zmeskal and Betty Okino are both here and look very strong. They have very different styles. Kim is short and powerful, and her routines are very quick and energetic. Betty is long and lean, and she really shows off those long lines. And then there's Shannon Miller, who was the top American during the compulsories and actually second out of the entire field. She has one of the most difficult balance beam routines in the world. Keep in mind, never a medal, so this might be a first.
Really would be a first. And of course, Bart Connor, this team is coached by arguably the most recognizable name in the sport of women's gymnastics, Bela Karolyi. What does he bring to this dance?
Well, there's no question that Bela is perhaps more famous than some of his great gymnasts like Mary Lou Retton and Nadia Comaneci. He's the most passionate and intense coach I've ever seen, and he really has his team really peaked. They look great in training. They're not missing any exercises. I think they're going to perform just beautifully here.
Well, Kathy, it is a fact that the United States has a realistic chance, but it is by no means a gimme. Who else is here?
They will have to be very consistent to hold off the Romanians and the Chinese. The Chinese are superb on balance beam and uneven bars, but a little weak on floor exercise and vault. And the Romanians are the only team to ever beat the Soviet Union at the World Championships, so we know their potential.
Well, the Romanians will be on beam first. Kathy, advantage, disadvantage?
Well, it can be a very precarious event to start on, but historically they're very solid on this event, especially when the pressure is on.
So let's take a look at how the rotations will be. The United States will start on the uneven bars, as you see the Soviet Union on vault, the Romanians we mentioned on beam, and the Chinese in floor exercise. So once again, everybody kind of giving this one to the Soviets. The battle is for the rest, and this battle is brought to you by Diet Coke. You're going to drink it just for the taste of it. And by Bud Dry. Dry brewed so it drinks light, yet satisfies completely. Team final, and hopes high for a United States medal for the first time. United States, of course, coached by Bela Karolyi.
She's got it.
And here is the way the United States will line up for the uneven bars.
And there's a lot of strategy involved in determining the lineup. It's very similar to baseball and their batting lineup. That first gymnast up is certainly counted on to get on base or come up with a very solid score and set the pace for the entire event.
And of course, for the Soviet Union, they've got 5 home run hitters.
This is unbelievable. Any one of their gymnasts could be the final gymnast up on any of these teams. Look at that, a double twisting Yurchenko for the first ball. That is incredible.
Natalia Kalinina.
What's amazing about this young lady, she's the Goodwill Games all-around champion, and here she's almost sacrificed going up as the first performer.
This is one of the most difficult vaults being done in women's gymnastics. You can see her push off the horse. She has to generate enough speed and power to crank 2 twists before she lands. Now, as you said, Bart, the first gymnast up is almost sacrificed. They tend to score a little bit lower, even if the routines are the equivalent of some of the final performances, because the judges wait for those bigger scores to come in later in the lineup.
Well, she sure didn't leave much room to get better. 9-9 on her first vault.
This is exactly why the Soviets are the best in the world. They start with 9-9s and they finish with almost 10s. Another incredible vault.
They will take the best of the 2, of course.
Which I'm sure will be her first vault. This wasn't quite as good, but almost. Look at that, just a slight hop on the landing.
So it might cost her a little bit. Another look.
Again, this is the Yurchenko vault. It's a round-off entry. It's become very popular in women's gymnastics.
So we'll see if Kalinina can improve on that 9-0 and does, or 9-9 rather, and does not 9-8-7-5. But boy, does that set a tone. Hillary Grivich of the United States now on the uneven bars.
And Hillary is second up. The first girl up, Michelle Campy, scored a 9.8. A great start for the United States. These gymnasts are very well prepared for this competition. Here's her release move. She doesn't have the most difficult uneven bar routine here, but it's very solid and certainly will keep the momentum going for this team. Here comes the dismount, a double back, and a good landing. Those will be so critical throughout the competition, particularly when it's this close, and they've got to try and stay ahead of the Romanians, and in order to do that, they've got to stick the landings.
One of the trademark of Bella Karolyi's gymnasts is that he designs a routine that's very predictable. They do one release move, a double back dismount, and many of them do a full twist as she did there before the double back dismount to fulfill the requirements but not take any unnecessary risk. He wants young ladies that can hit routines every time.
And there is her score, 9-8 for Hillary Grivich. Very good for the first 2 United States performers. Rosa Galieva, Soviet Union in the vault.
Oh, that is a super vault. Very difficult, particularly for a gymnast of that size. She's quite tiny, and this vault requires so much speed into the horse. Perfect timing on the push in order to pull off that front pike with a half twist. Watch right here, the push. And a good landing. A little bit close to the horse. That will be the only deduction.
Well, Kalinina a 9-9 as the first vaulter, and now Galieva waiting for her score. And her score, 9-8-8-7. Not bad.
Picturesque and challenging.
Uneven bars. Kathy Johnson, you like the idea of the United States starting out on bars.
I think this is a great rotation for them. They're very solid here. Betty has everything in this routine she needs. Here's a first release move. High Jaeger front. Very well done. She follows that with a reverse hex coming up right here. So she has 2 release moves out of the way. The only weak part of her routine comes up right here. It's the dismount. It's only a front somersault with a half twist, which is very, very easy. But fortunately for her, in the code of points, that dismount has been upgraded to be a C instead of a B. Of course, elements of difficulty are graded from A to D, D being the most difficult. And it's really not comparable to the rest of her routine. That will be a slight deduction.
And just as the United States getting a good first rotation, so too is the Soviet Union on vault now. Lyshenko.
And they're double twisting Yurchenko. There are only a handful of gymnasts that can perform that vault, and most of them are on the Soviet team.
9-8-3-7, the score for Betty Okino on the uneven bars, really indicating a good routine considering perhaps the lack of difficulty.
This Soviet team is so far superior to any of the other teams in this competition. And you can really see it here right on the first rotation. Their level of difficulty is outstanding.
That was Tatiana Lyshenko. She is from Kherson in the Ukraine. And again, you have to pose the question as you see her score 9-9-7-5, leaving not much that's up from there. But you really have to wonder now what will happen to the Soviet team when, of course, the republics become teams of their own. Two of their team here from the Ukraine, for instance. Shannon Miller of the United States, and she, too, has kind of burst upon the gymnastics scene.
This is a great event for Shannon. She has quite a bit of difficulty in the routine, starting out right here with a full pirouette into a ginger. Nicely done. She has to watch slight form breaks. You can see her toes come unpointed sometimes. Those are very minor deductions. Watch this. Unbelievable. Full twisting double back. No one does that dismount better than Shannon Miller. Excellent execution.
Really nailed it there. Shannon Miller of Edmonds, Oklahoma. To the joy of the crowd here and to her coach.
Here you'll see her reverse hecht, which was her second release move. Plenty of height. And this really is the highlight of her routine.
This is a double back with a full twist. Great rotation. She finishes it easily.
So we await the score now for Shannon Miller, and a 9-9 on bars. Terrific for Shannon Miller.
One of the greatest lines I've ever heard a coach say was her coach, Steve Nuno, saying that she doesn't have a lot to say, she has a lot to do. She's very quiet, very shy, but intensely motivated.
And the Soviet Union already starting to hide from this field in the team competition, even in the midst of the first rotation. Tatiana Gutsu.
She performs the double twisting Yurchenko as well. This has become the Soviet compulsory vault, and they do it so well. The best part about her vault is the distance that she gets on the afterflight.
Well, they started with a 9-9. They haven't dropped off a bit.
Gutsu's the European Cup champion. As you mentioned, Kathy, although she has a little form break in the early part of that vault, she really travels a great distance from the horse. And that's tough for a young lady who's only 4 feet 5 inches tall.
That was her first vault. There's her score, 9-8-8-7. She, of course, will have another and an opportunity to better that score.
Bart, as you mentioned, she doesn't quite have the same polish as some of her teammates. Watch closely to see if she can keep her legs together and her toes pointed throughout the entire vault. Better landing on the vault. She's a little off center on the landing, however, and the legs still came apart right as she made contact with the horse.
How many times we heard this story, though? She said when she was 6 years old, she was selected out of a kindergarten class to train in gymnastics. So many of the Soviets and the Romanians got their start from the same way.
For better or worse. Second vault, 9-9-2-5 for Tatiana Gutsu. So she does improve from the first vault. And that she likes. We'll be back.
This Baron.
This United States team here in these championships with his biggest little charge, Kim Zameskel. Perhaps the term team might even be a little bit misleading, because what this really is a group of athletes who come together for a very short period of time. August 24th was when this team that we're watching tonight was put together. Kim Zameskel, of course, everybody figured would be on the team. She didn't disappoint at this special performance to select the team in Indianapolis just a few weeks ago.
The sport of gymnastics is typically very much an individual sport until the World Championships and Olympics, where team is extremely important. And in an effort to pick the strongest U.S. gymnastics team possible, they decided to have the trials a little bit closer to the games in order for them to peak for the World Championships.
Betty Okino, I don't think also would be considered a surprise to have made the team competition here under Bella Caroli, who is her coach.
This is certainly the strongest U.S. team that I have ever seen fielded. Strong, particularly in terms of depth. Their 4th, 5th, and 6th gymnasts are extremely well prepared for the World Championships.
I think a lot of sports, particularly team sports, like to select the team 6 months, maybe a year ahead of a major world event. But in gymnastics, you need the people who are hot at the exact right time just before the games start.
And it is interesting, too, at this stage of women's gymnastics in the United States, there's a whole lot of great talent, very young, actually more talent than there are spots on this team. They actually selected out of this process a team of 8, and then it was pared down, of course, to 6. Kim Zmeskal now on the uneven bars.
This is